Previously, on the rose she left behind, Karen McKinsey, the only child of a powerful South African family, thought she had left her past behind. But a drunken mistake in a village years ago would return to haunt her. After marrying her childhood sweetheart Charlie and giving birth to a daughter named Lily, her world came crashing down when Lily was kidnapped. On the same day, Joshua, the man from her buried past, was released from prison. 10 years passed without a trace of Lily or Joshua, until one unexpected moment threatened to unearth everything Karen had fought to forget. 10 years had passed since the day Lily vanished, yet Karen McKinsey still woke up reaching for her daughter's cry into the dark. But the silence always answered back. The once lively mansion had become a hollow museum of memories. Lily's nursery remained untouched. Tiny shoes still lined up by the door, her baby blanket folded over the crib. Karen often sat on the floor there for hours, whispering apologies to a child who never replied. Her days blurred into nights. She had long abandoned her career in medicine. How could she save lives when she couldn't even protect her own child? Charlie, once her anchor, had become a stranger in the same house. He buried himself in work, pretending strength. They shared meals, a bed, and sometimes a smile, but the weight of unspoken grief kept them from each other. They tried to conceive again, failed, tried therapy, failed again. Every December, Karen stood by the window watching the rain, wondering if Lily still lived. Somewhere, somehow. But no leads, no calls, no ransom, just a growing ache that refused to fade. And then, it happened. A single phone call, a collapse, a car speeding through city traffic, and fate, silent all these years, finally moved. Charlie's hands trembled as he gripped the steering wheel. Karen had collapsed. The maid's voice had been frantic. "She's not waking up!" He didn't think. He just drove, swerving through Cape Town traffic like a man chasing time. But fate had its own script. At a congested intersection, a young girl darted into the road. A tray of roasted plantains and peanuts balanced on her head. She didn't see him. He didn't see her until it was too late. Impact. The tray clattered, the girl dropped hard. Charlie slammed the brakes, heart pounding. People screamed. He rushed out, kneeling beside her. Blood trickled from a cut near her temple. Her chest rose, barely. She was no older than 10. He carried her into the car, shouted directions, sped to the same hospital Karen was admitted. Nurses wheeled her in as he barked, "I hit her! Do whatever you have to. I'll cover everything." They asked for a contact. He gave his. Then he turned and ran, to Karen. At the hospital's emergency wing, she was awake but weak. Her skin pale, her eyes lost. He held her hand. "The little girl needs blood," a doctor interrupted. "The girl, she's critical." Charlie nodded. "Take mine if I'm a match." The girl was stable, but the storm had just begun. Karen insisted on seeing the girl, the child Charlie had helped save. Something inside her stirred the moment he mentioned her age. She walked slowly into the hospital room. The girl lay motionless on the bed, a drip in her arm, bandage across her forehead, a small cough escaping her lips. Karen stopped at the doorway. Her breath caught. The child's face. It didn't make sense. But her heart began to pound. She stepped closer. There was something about her. Her nose, the shape of her mouth, even the curve of her chin, and the scar on her left wrist. Karen blinked hard, struggling to breathe. The girl stirred in her sleep and hummed softly, a tune Karen hadn't heard in 10 years. A lullaby she used to sing while rocking Lily to sleep. No one else would know that tune. Karen's knees weakened. She gripped the edge of the bed. The nurse walked in quietly. She said her name is Nandi, 10 years old, no parents, lives with her grandmother near the market. 10 years. The exact age Lily would be? Karen didn't say a word. She just stared. Her heart whispered something her mind didn't dare believe. Could it be? Could the child she thought she lost be right in front of her? Karen visited Nandi every day by her bedside. She brought warm food, soft clothes, and small gifts. But it wasn't charity. It was instinct. Something invisible bound her to this girl. The connection was too strong, too strange to ignore. Nandi was polite, quiet, and cautious. She winced when anyone raised their voice, flinched at sudden movement, but she smiled when Karen entered the room. A gentle, reserved smile that made Karen's chest ache. One afternoon, as Karen brushed Nandi's tangled hair, the girl whispered, "You smell like someone I used to dream about." Karen froze. "Who?" she asked gently. Nandi shrugged. "I don't know. I used to dream she was singing." Karen swallowed hard. "Do you remember the song?" Nandi hummed a melody. Karen's lips parted. It was the same lullaby. Word for word. Note for note. Karen clutched the edge of the bed, trembling. She stared at the scar on Nandi's wrist again. The very place Lily had once been burned by hot tea as a toddler. Charlie noticed the shift in Karen's mood. "You're getting too close," he warned. "Don't hurt yourself again." But Karen couldn't turn away, not this time. Her soul had already decided. She didn't need science yet. She didn't need proof. Her heart already knew the truth. When Nandi was well enough to leave the hospital, Charlie offered to drive her home. He said it was the right thing to do. They followed her directions to a crumbling apartment block near the edge of the market. The streets were crowded, loud, dusty. Children played barefoot in the gutters. They reached the flat. The door was wooden, chipped, barely hanging on its hinges. Nandi knocked softly. An older woman opened the door. Her face was hard, her eyes cold. Before Nandi could speak, the woman snapped, "Where have you been?" She grabbed Nandi by the arm and slapped her. Charlie stepped forward, furious. "Hey, that's not how you—" "Leave us alone," the woman barked, dragging Nandi inside. The door slammed shut. Charlie stood there, stunned, angry, confused. The girl hadn't even said goodbye. When he got home, Karen sat waiting anxiously. He described the apartment, the woman, the slap. She said her name was Mama Thando. Karen's face drained of color. Her throat tightened. "That's Joshua's mother," she whispered. Charlie blinked. "Joshua, the man who—" Karen stood up slowly, heart racing. Joshua didn't have siblings, which means Nandi can't be her granddaughter. The pieces began to move. The past was no longer staying buried. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. That night, Karen couldn't sleep. The name Mama Thando looped in her mind like a haunting lullaby gone wrong. Her fingers trembled as she reached for a box tucked deep inside her closet. Old photos, letters, memories she tried to forget. She found the only picture she had of Joshua. A younger version, with the same cold eyes. She stared at it for a long time. Charlie sat silently across from her, watching. "Tell me," he said. "All of it." And so, for the first time in 10 years, Karen told the truth. She told him about the village, the friendship that turned, the night she woke up and realized something had been taken from her. How she left without speaking, how she buried the guilt, the fear, the shame. She didn't tell anyone, not even him. She admitted the one thing she'd never dared say aloud. "I don't know if Lily is yours or his." Charlie looked away. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just nodded slowly and said, "We need to find out who that girl really is." There was no turning back now. They contacted a private investigator the next morning. Karen felt something inside her shift. It wasn't just about answers anymore. It was about redemption. The investigator moved quickly. Karen and Charlie waited, hearts heavy with unspoken tension. After days of interviews and record searches, he called them in. "There's no birth certificate for a child named Nandi living with Thando Mbele," he began. "No adoption records. No school registration before age 3. She simply appeared." Karen's heartbeat pounded in her ears. "She began showing up around the market as a toddler," the investigator continued. "Locals say Mama Thando started calling her granddaughter. But no one remembers her ever being pregnant. No one saw a baby arrive." Charlie leaned forward. "So she just claimed her?" "Exactly." Karen's hand covered her mouth. She would have been a year old when Lily was taken. The investigator nodded solemnly. I believe it's time to take this to the hospital. You'll need a DNA test. Karen agreed instantly. She called the hospital where they were once admitted and requested a DNA done from their previous sample, collected discreetly. As the days passed, Karen's anxiety grew. She watched the phone constantly, barely ate, barely slept. Charlie said little. His silence was thick with doubt. But deep inside, Karen already knew. She just needed science to confirm what her soul had whispered from the start. Karen sat on the edge of the bed, Lily's old blanket pressed against her chest. The house felt frozen in time, waiting. The walls seemed to hold their breath with her. Every second dragged like an hour. When her phone finally rang, she couldn't move. Charlie picked it up. He spoke quietly, listened, and turned to her with glassy eyes. She's yours, he said. Karen didn't hear the rest. Her knees gave way, and he collapsed to the floor in sobs. Raw, shaking, years of pain pouring out like a dam finally broken. She's mine, she whispered again and again, as if saying it would make the years disappear. But they wouldn't. 10 years had been stolen. Her baby had called another woman grandmother. She had slept hungry, sold snacks on dangerous streets. While Karen lived in grief and luxury, her daughter had suffered just miles away. Charlie knelt beside her, held her, but said nothing. His silence this time wasn't comfort. It was distance. Karen felt it, the doubt in his eyes. She had her daughter back, but something in her marriage was slipping away. Still, she wiped her face, stood, and whispered with resolve, I'm bringing her home. For the first time in a decade, the emptiness inside her had a name, and that name was Lily. The police arrested Mama Thondo. She sat stiff in the chair, arms crossed, lips tight. She denied everything at first, said Nandi was her late cousin's child, said Karen was confused. But witnesses came forward. Neighbors spoke about the slaps, the screams, how Nandi was forced to sell on the streets, even when she had fever. And then, something cracked. Mama Thondo broke down, not with guilt, but with fury. She was my son's child, she snapped. Joshua told me. He said Karen betrayed him, carried his baby, then abandoned him like trash. Karen stared in shock. He knew? He knew, Mama Thondo hissed. He watched from a distance, the marriage, the baby. He told me he would get her back. Karen's heart pounded. He got out of prison that day, Mama Thondo continued, voice trembling. But he never made it home. He died. Hit by a taxi. Gone just like that. Karen couldn't speak. I paid those men, Mama Thondo admitted. Told them to take the baby, raise her in secret, bring her to me. Why didn't you love her? Karen whispered. Mama Thando's eyes darkened. Because every time I looked at her, I saw what took my son. There was no redemption in her voice, only regret twisted in rage. Mama Thando was sentenced to prison, while Karen brought Lily, no longer Nandi, home in silence. The same home where her crib once stood, the same halls that once echoed with her laughter. But Lily didn't remember any of it. She looked around with wary eyes, uncertain steps, and lips that barely spoke. Karen had imagined this moment so many times, running to her, hugging her, crying into her hair. But reality was quieter, heavier. Lily was guarded, polite. She called her ma'am for the first 3 days. Karen ached. She filled the room with warmth. New clothes, books, a soft bed. She sat beside her at night, brushing her hair, hoping Lily would ask to be held. But trust takes time. Charlie, once overjoyed, now moved like a man walking through fog. He watched Karen with distant eyes, always kind, but never close. One evening, he whispered, "She's not mine, is she?" Karen didn't lie. "I don't know." He nodded, jaw tight. "But I feel like I lost everything twice." Then he left the room. Karen cried quietly that night, not wanting Lily to hear. She finally had her daughter. But her marriage was unraveling thread by thread. Still, she clung to hope. She had to, because for the first time in 10 years, Lily was sleeping just a door away. And that was something worth fighting for. Charlie couldn't sleep. The doubts gnawed at him. He loved Lily. How could he not? But the question kept circling his mind like a vulture. Was she mine? He asked Karen for the test. She agreed without protest. She wanted the truth too, not just for him, but for Lily. The days dragged like slow rain. Then the call came. Charlie stood by the window, the envelope in hand, fingers trembling. Karen sat across from him, silent. He opened it slowly, read it, blinked, then whispered, "She's ours." Karen's face crumpled. Relief crashed over her like a wave. Tears spilled freely. Charlie crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. This time, he didn't hold back. Later that evening, they sat with Lily under the stars. Karen told her stories from when she was a baby. Charlie brought out old photos. Lily smiled. Not wide, not fully, but real. It would take time. There were years to rebuild, scars to tend. But they had truth now. They had each other. And that, after everything, was enough. The end. What would you do if you discovered your child had been alive all along, but raised in pain? Could you forgive someone like Mama Thando? Should Karen have told Charlie the truth from the beginning? Let's talk in the comments. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful, emotional stories rooted in real-life experiences. Thank you for watching.